everyone, welcome back to the BlockBase Plus sew-along. This is the video for Block 5. You can read the written blog post or you can watch this video. They cover the same steps. Let's get started. Open up your BlockBase Plus software, and if you still see that Getting Started window, go ahead and close it. I've turned mine off now, so I won't see it when I open up BlockBase Plus. By now, I hope that you're all pretty comfortable navigating around the software and finding your blocks. For this lesson, we'll be working with block 1915B, and I'm going to leave it up to you how you would prefer to find that block. You can use the search function to find 1915B, or you can look for it in the navigation panel. You'll find it in 10 unequal 9 patch in the 04 blocks with unpieced bars category. So we're looking for 1915B, and that is down here somewhere. Over here, right here. So because this is a category with quite a few blocks, you might find it easier to use the search function and find it by the Brackman ID number up here. However you get to it, go ahead and select 1915B. In this lesson, we're going to go over the export options that BlockBase Plus offers. So those are down here in the block toolbar. Click Export. And JPEG and PNG are image files that are commonly used in things like websites or for print applications. So we're going to try those out first. Click on As JPEG File. Here in the export window, you'll see the default size for this block is 9 inches. We're going to make an image that would be appropriate to use on a website or to send in an email. Because of that, we don't need it to be the actual block size. So click Custom Block Size and enter 3 inches. We're going to leave the resolution set to 96 dots per inch, show patch lines is still checked, and the quality will be set to 100. The resolution you choose affects the quality of the image and the size of the file that gets created. Generally speaking, you can choose a low resolution, around 72 dpi, if you're saving an image for an email or to use on a website. You can choose a high resolution, like 300 dpi, if you're saving an image to be published in a book or a magazine. The JPEG quality is the setting that affects the size of the file. It's a trade-off between the compressed file size and the quality of the saved image. The higher the quality setting, the larger the JPEG file. Low values will result in fuzzier images, while higher values will produce sharper images. Now I'd like to point out a nice feature to most of the windows and screens that you'll come across in BlockBase Plus. Here in the export window, see that there's this Help button. Go ahead and click it. And what that does is takes me straight to the EQ support site, and it opens up the page for the feature that I'm currently using. So you'll see here at the top it says BlockBase Plus Export Images. This is really nice. It's a quick way to get to the help information that you need for the feature that you're currently using. So if a few months from now, you go back into BlockBase and you say, I want to export an image, but I forget what all of these different settings mean. You can click that Help button and it will take you straight to the information on our support site that you'll need. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize my support page window here. And back in the export window, click the Export button. A save window will appear. By default, the file will be named the Brackman ID number. If you'd like to change it, you can type a new name here. Images exported from BlockBase Plus are saved in the Documents directory on your computer in a folder called My BlockBase Plus, and inside there, there's a folder called Images. If you'd like to change the save location, you can do that up here. Now, I'm using a Windows computer for this video. If you're using a Mac, your save window will look a little different. but the default save locations will be the same as Windows. Click the Save button, and a JPEG file will be created of the block image. Now the process is very similar for PNG files. So with our block still selected up here, in the block toolbar, click Export as PNG file. And this window will look pretty familiar. Again, we're going to change the custom block size and enter 3. We'll leave the resolution set to 96 dots per inch, but this time we're going to uncheck the box for Show Patch Lines. And over here under the block image, we're going to click this colorway button so that it displays in grayscale. Click the Export button, and again we'll see a save window. Now I have saved PNG files of our other sew-along blocks, so that's why I see these here. You won't see these other images unless you happen to save PNG files of those blocks too. So don't worry if you don't see those there. Again, the file is named the Brackman ID number by default, and it's saved in that same documents directory as before. If you'd like to change either of those, you can. Click the Save button, and a PNG file will be created for us. If you'd like to take a look at those two images that we created, you can open up a File Explorer window, navigate to your Documents folder, then look for a folder named My BlockBase Plus. Inside there, look for a folder named Images. And here, because I have my folder set to a thumbnail view, I can see that I have 2 images for 1915B. The JPEG file is the color version, and the PNG is the grayscale version. I'm going to close this File Explorer window and go back to the BlockBase Plus window. Now we can take a look at our last export option, which is SVG files. In the block toolbar, click Export as SVG file. SVG files are a unique type of image format. SVG stands for Scalable Vector Graphic. These vector files can be imported into many different software applications on the market, including digital cutting machines, embroidery machines, long arms, and more. SVG files exported from BlockBase Plus can either be an image of the selected block, or it can be the templates for the block. The options that will work best for you depend on how you plan to use the SVG. The steps we work through in the rest of this lesson are the basics for using an SVG file with a digital cutting machine. Here in the Export SVG window, I'm making the block the default 9-inch size, so I'm going to leave this setting here. If you're making the block a different size, you can choose custom block size. I'm going to use the resolution of 72 dots per inch. If you visit our support site, it will give you the suggested DPI settings for the different digital cutters on the market, like Brother Scan and Cut and Silhouette. Remember that you have that help button down here to go straight to our support site for that information. Now, under Export Type, I'm going to choose Export Block Templates. And I want you to take a moment to read this note here in the window. When exporting the block templates, the seam allowance width is the cut line on the export. So if you're familiar with what the templates look like, you'll know that there are 2 lines. There's the finished solid line of a patch, and then the dotted line for the seam allowance. With an SVG file, it will just be 1 line, but it's the line of the seam allowance. A scale indicator is added to the export to use as a guide when importing the SVG file into a third-party software. We're going to leave the seam allowance set to the standard 1/4 inch, and also make sure that Export All Templates is selected. That way you get a cut patch for every single piece of the block. I'm going to leave mirroring off, and then I'm going to click the Export button. Again, a save window will appear. The file will be named the Brackman ID number, and it will be saved to that same directory in the Documents folder. You can change either of those if you like. Go ahead and click the Save button, and we'll have an SVG file waiting for us in that Images folder again. Now that the SVG file has been created, you can open the file in your cutter software. I won't go into the specifics of using the different cutters in this lesson because we're focusing on using the BlockBase Plus software. If you look at the blog post, I give a real brief look at how to use the SVG file for Cricut Cutter. Now that we've been through all of our export options, I want to make sure that we add our block to the favorites. So make sure it's still selected in the viewer. And then in the block toolbar, click Add to Favorites. At the top of the navigation panel, click the Favorites button. And here you'll see our 5 blocks from the sew along. Now we haven't printed anything for this block, but you are familiar with all of the different print options that are available from our earlier lessons in the sew along. When you want to come back here and print something for your block, you can go straight to your favorites and select our 1915B block and choose what you'd like to print. I did want to mention one thing. If you decide that you are going to use the rotary cutting chart for this block, let me preview that real quick. And I want to zoom in on a note here. You'll notice that patch C on the rotary cutting chart says print templates for this patch. That's because patch C is this kite shape here, which you can't easily cut with just a ruler and a rotary cutter. So for that patch, you'll need to use the templates to cut it accurately. I'm going to close my print preview here and close the print window. If you're done working in BlockBase Plus now, you can close the program by clicking the X or clicking File, Quit BlockBase Plus. And just a couple of quick reminders before I send you off to sew. Remember that you can make the block any size that you like. You can be creative in how you color the block. Just make sure you keep your seams and patches in the same orientation as the 1915B block. There will be a new post on the blog on Friday, June 4th, where you can share the picture of your sewn block. Have fun!